Hi, I'm Kiwi.
And I'm Jared.
And we are the two gentlemen. Jared, how are you?
Well, mate, well. How are you?
Yeah, pretty good.
Yeah.
So, Jared, you say you're well, but you've played rugby for, 34 years or something of your life. How is your body holding up at 40?
I have my moments. I mean, I still move pretty well, but I was thinking about this today actually, and I thought, geez, I've seen people come through sport and get injured kicking a football, and they injure their shoulder somehow, or and I think or at 14 they played one season of basketball and wrecked their knee, and you think, wow, touch wood, like I'm still playing, I'm still doing stuff, and I finished rugby, but I still play basketball. I still I've got a confession. I've transferred from rugby to indoor netball. Natural progression, of course. But I'm still moving around, and so I'm still running around. Last night I played basketball against a team that are they're all 20-year-olds. So,
And how did you go?
Oh, we won. I
Wow.
got 6 from 9 from the 3-point line.
Oh, nice.
but
Really?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. That was it was one of those nights. But
Steph Curry.
oh, my dad always claims that he was the reason I can shoot is because when I was a kid, we didn't have a basketball ring, but he found an old netball ring, and he and it was all bent too, and he hooked it up to an old kitchen cupboard as the backboard, and stuck it on the tree in the backyard. And so a netball ring is smaller, so I had to get a basketball basketball ball through a netball ring, and it was. He still claims that that's why I can shoot. But
It got your eye in. It was like Bradman hitting the golf ball with the cricket stump.
Correct. Yeah. So maybe he was onto something. He used to tell me to wear steel cap boots to footy training too. So when I put so they were heavy. So when I used to put my football boots on, they felt like they were light.
So, Jared, I know you on and off the field, but on the field you were an absolute soldier. You weren't the kind of guy that, went down for a penalty or anything like that. You just went on with it.
Just kept plugging away.
Yep. Yeah. But how does that attitude serve you in real life? I can imagine that as a man.
Yep.
Sorry, you're to, use your gender, but as a man, you probably, if you're anything like other men, such as my father, who's gone through some pretty serious stuff lately, you have the same sort of soldier-on attitude.
Yeah.
How does that serve you in real life?
It's something that I've been dealing with lately, actually. Like, I mean, when I say lately, probably ever since I've become a father, So, a 20-year-old, I didn't care if I fell over and cut my leg or stuck my hand and clipped something when I was doing some work, or, knocked a fingernail off or something, like all that little stuff that you do all the time when you're active or when you're doing some sort of labour work. But these days, every time I scratch myself, I'm running for the Savlon cream, and it's sort of, I guess you think about things, let's be honest, if something goes wrong, I can't sort of, if I lose a toe because I've let an infection go too long, that's going to affect my family, as well as me. So I don't know, as a man, you probably think, oh yeah, I'll be right, I'll tough it out. But, when you start throwing in, the family and the fact that, you're not invincible anymore. Well, you never were, but you start to feel a bit more, I guess, normal.
So I guess you understand the stakes are high now. You've got something else that depends on you.
Yeah. That would probably be the easiest way to explain it.
Yeah.
It's not something that I ever thought I'd feel. Like I was that soldier-on sort of guy that just, whatever.
Yep.
I never went to the doctor.
Yeah.
Literally. But now I think the doctor is sick of me because I literally, every time I get something sore, I'm like, well, I didn't play rugby anymore. I don't play rugby anymore. So why is that sore?
Yeah.
But that's probably a byproduct. But yeah, it's sort of like, I think, oh, well, that might be serious, and I suppose life experience shows you, and being more, connected to people through the medias and through the way the world is a lot more smaller. You do hear the bad news stories, you do hear that, oh, gee, someone had a slight pain in their stomach, and then all of a sudden they find out it's bad news.
Yeah.
So maybe I overthink things like that, but that's the way I sort of look at things. I'm like, well, I might as well get it checked out.
Yeah.
And if it is something reasonably serious and it can be fixed, I'd hate to be that guy that, if the worst happened, they said, all he had to do was go and take a tablet and he would have been fine.
Yeah.
So, yeah. What about yourself? I mean, obviously, as you get older, we start to see things happen. Like for me, the growth of my eyebrows is phenomenal.
Yeah.
As I turn 40, it's all of a sudden, I've never actually had to do anything about them. And then,
now you're off to the salon every second week.
Now it's part of, get the whippersnipper out. But, that's obviously little things and changes of our, changes in our body. But, do you have the same sort of feelings that, do you go to the doctors more? Are you more aware of that sort of stuff?
Definitely, yeah. So I've gone through a few things. The most significant thing for me was, I think it was 6 years ago now, I had a staph infection.
Yep.
And it was the worst thing I'd ever been through. And I was given the wrong antibiotics. So I didn't actually heal from it.
Yeah, okay.
And the kind of staph it would just spread anywhere that the fluid contacted with my skin.
Yeah.
There'd be a whole new sore. Oh. And I remember at the time, I just thought to myself, wow, this has really shown me that all that matters is health. And that was a great lesson to learn.
Yeah.
So I should have known that already. But to me, really, your health is your wealth. That's all you've got. If you don't have that, well, what are you doing?
That's right.
Really?
Well, that's, it just reminded me of, I had going back to my 20s, I got my foot trodden on and hurt my toenail.
So how old were you? What part of your 20s?
Mid-20s,
okay.
Right? And became manky and fell off because, a bruised and from that point on, I had a pretty average big toe. It was something I wasn't actually, I was a bit ashamed of, to be honest. The nail grew all weird and manky, right? So anyway, less we talk about it, the better. But so, I don't know, 5 years ago, mid-30s, so 10 years later, I get an infection in my leg, and it blew up from my ankle and go right up my calf, and my whole leg was just roaring red and swollen. I left it and just thought, oh well, whatever. And it got better on its own. And then the next time it happened again, 6 months later. But it was accompanied with I might have scratched my leg. So I'm like, oh, something's got into my leg. And then I went and got antibiotics and fixed it. So this went on for about 4 or 5 times until the point where I got hospitalised had to get on a drip because,
wow,
this thing wasn't going down and whatever. But, so I got hospitalised twice with it until I found a specialist who actually said, oh, that toe's pretty average and that's where your bacterial infection is coming in. So every time, I was, sweaty socks or whatever, that was bringing in bacteria.
Can I just ask you, how did he come to that conclusion? Did he examine you basically head to toe to work
pretty
out
much
what the source of the infection was?
Well, essentially, it was happening because I got cuts on my leg, but then the last 3 happened without any visible sign of the skin breaking. So, and it got worse. It got to the point where I was getting flu symptoms, so I was getting knocked out. I was getting high temperatures and I was shaking uncontrollably. It was pretty bad, you know. So, that opened similar to you. You just think, wow, how easy can that happen? I had a dodgy toe, and so he's fixed the toe, and touch wood, I'm all good. So, crazy. You did this stuff doesn't happen. When you're younger, and you don't even think about it.
No,
and even if you did, you're like, oh yeah, whatever. It's just a sore leg.
Now, going back to when we were growing up. I don't know if you remember some famous footage from State of Origin. It's Benny Elias with the the blood all over his face and taping his head up.
Yeah.
Michael DeVere on the sideline getting the staple gun in the face.
That was a solid one.
And this is the kind of imagery that we grew up with.
Yeah, yeah.
And I suppose aspired to be like. My dad was in the Navy. He was always thought you've got to be stoic. You've just got to push on with everything. Yeah. And I feel that. It's of course we do. We need to move on. We're as a tribe. You can't leave anyone behind. You've just got to keep going, right? But having said that, a lot gets forgotten, and a lot gets pushed down.
Yeah.
In our case, our physical health got pushed down.
Yep.
soldering on with your toe. I remember you on the field when we were both 14 actually playing Commonwealth Bank Cup, which is an open age rugby league tournament.
Yeah.
And you were on the ground. I remember blood gushing out.
Yeah.
I think you caught a boot in the head or something.
Yeah. I tried to tackle someone.
And we were kids.
We were. Yeah.
But that kind of made us, didn't it? It shaped us. It was like, you can get through this. You can get through this physically.
Yeah.
But now I feel like we're counting the cost of that.
Yeah, a little bit.
And I don't just mean physically, but, the amount of things that we're told to just, drink a cup of concrete and harden up.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if there are a lot of people out there who have unresolved grief, perhaps.
Yeah.
That they would have benefited from getting it out of their system at the time,
and
rather than
having that cup, that mug of concrete,
Well, it's hardened now.
And
it's somewhere.
It's somewhere, but it's, it's blocking certain things probably, but it would be tough, that's right. Grief just gets pushed down, and some people have still got that from a long, we'll have it for the rest of their life because of the way that we were what we saw and how society, we were raised by society. You think about the generation before us, that's some of the stuff they would have seen,
Absolutely.
Wars.
Yeah.
And things.
My dad was a POW.
Right. There you go. So, I can't even fathom that. I'm not even, I can see as many war movies and read as many war books as I can, but can you fathom that?
No.
I know he's your dad, and I'm sure, I don't know what he's spoken to you about, but that's, and you hear about all these people that do spend time in wars and even earlier wars that maybe, they may be gone now, but you always hear old Uncle Arthur or whatever his name was. He always went silent and drank a lot.
That's right.
And he never was the same and all that sort of thing. So not comparing what we went through at all compared to what these people went through, but you just think that's society. That was just hide it, and that's going back to just hide it, get married, have kids, and you'll be right.
Yeah. Yeah, and you think about the outlets that people used. I mean, we've talked about alcohol in a previous podcast, and the generation of our parents, they weren't accessing mental health services.
Oh, no.
There was no Beyond Blue back then.
Oh my goodness!
There was no Movember.
No. And we sort of laugh, but we take for granted and sort of think, that every month's another month of what are we aware of this month, but you're right, they never had that. It was, you're on your own, or go sit on if you had to go to a psychiatrist, you could be locked up in a mental institution
against your will.
Yeah. All you need is two people to sign you in.
Right.
Yeah. So.
Wow.
I mean, I don't think it was, but I've done. So I love history, and I've done a bit of, this is sort of branded, but I've done paranormal stuff, paranormal investigating, things like that, and part of it is going into sometimes these old mental asylums, and so the history side of things and everything really gets me, and some of these, the way that these people were put in there were just, you needed one signature to get in there, but you needed eight signatures from 8 different doctors to get out.
Wow.
So once you were in, but I mean, I'm talking early days. Some of these people were in there for being drunk.
Yeah.
This is obviously very early days, but I think these poor people, what they went through, and if they did get out, they would have spent 10 years of their life in a mental institution in those times. Imagine the grief they would have had and the stuff they would have had going through their minds. I think we've got it good, but we still have our challenges.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think one of the biggest challenges is the whole stigma of getting on with it. Really.
Getting on with it. That's the.
Yeah.
It's not. And I'm not saying this is pushed into me personally, but it's just society. It's pushed into you as a male more. But. Physically get on, but then as a female, I'm talking out of, I don't know, but, they have their challenges too when it comes to, getting on with it. The things they have to go through and the stuff they would have had to see.
Absolutely.
It's,
and the powerlessness as well.
That's what I was trying to get at.
Yeah. I think as men, at least, throughout most of history,
Yeah.
men have had more choice, I believe.
I believe that too. Yes.
Yeah. And, people can disagree with that's fine.
Yeah.
I'm not a historian. I don't know every aspect of every single person's life either.
Yeah.
But I believe in general, that's been the advantage of being a man, the greater range of choice.
Yes. Yes. I agree with that.
So I can only imagine how hard it was for a woman in the past, say even recently, really, just having...
It's recent history.
Yeah. Not being able to divorce.
Yeah.
If you can't access many different occupations, well, then you're basically subject to marrying the best person you can marry, and
hopefully
even that feeling wouldn't be great. Imagine if
powerless.
Yeah, exactly. Like, even if I married the richest woman in the world, I'd feel like I'm disempowered.
Yeah. No, totally. And it's some shoes that I have never walked in, and we have never walked in. But definitely recognise it.
Absolutely. So now, in your 40s, what's your health journey from here? Like, have you got a goal?
Well, as we sit right now, I'm on a health and fitness challenge.
Really?
Yeah. Definitely.
Okay.
Definitely. I've reached that. Well, we've touched on the fact that I was playing football and I felt like I was doing a lot of movement. That's now removed from my life, so I've got to look at these things, and I've got to do extras. And I've never been a person that's in prime physical condition. Like for me, I have been, but you look at me on the street, you'd be like, oh, he's a big unit and he's carrying a lot of weight, but I can move, and and I always look at my family, like all my relatives. You don't make racehorses out of Clydesdales,
Exactly. Exactly.
There's a certain part of it is genetics. But I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm not carrying weight. So part of that is to start now and knock off a few kilos and maintain that. But touching on what we said earlier, or what I said earlier, it's about doing it for me, but my kids too. I want them to be to have me in their life for as long as they can, and I want to see as much as I can. And that's no different to everybody. Like I'm not sitting here saying anything different, but so for me, they're my main driving force. So I can be around for my family, my wife, my kids, and experience life. We only get one go. So as I get older, I want to be able to still move around after playing so many games of football. That was as I sort of hit my 30s, I started to think, oh, should I still be going? That was one of the part of the reasons going. You're doing this out of habit, but what's going to happen in 10 years or 20 years or whatever, and I still don't know. Like I could get to 50 and be like, wow, shouldn't have done that. But so my goal is to be as fit and to be able to move as well for as long as I can. So, and that's on me to do. I can't. As far as like we talked about mental health early episodes about having your own self-care and your own time and things like that. So, it's combining all that. Being healthy in mind and body.
That was my next question, actually. I was going to ask you if you had a focus on mental health going into the latter part of our lives.
Well, it's a realization that I think, and I've touched on it before. It's doing things like this for me, being able to express myself and also like mental health, being able to reconnect with people. I've reconnected with you. There's a few people that I've reconnected with through different avenues. Being happy with what you're doing, like not doing things just robotically. So that to me is being in a good space. Different priorities in life too. You're not interested in chasing, how many pubs you can go to, and like I said, we've already talked about that. But so
do you with the guys that roughly are our age, whether we played rugby with them or went to school with them? Do you feel that you can have these sorts of conversations with them about mental health?
There's definitely a I'm sure you could, but it could be it could be more difficult with some people to have these conversations.
Yep. And I'm asking you personally as Jared, because you're very easy to get along with, and you're the kind of person that people open up to.
Yeah. I personally wouldn't have a problem with anybody that I've known, that I currently know in the past, to have a conversation with about stuff. If they need help, I'm happy to listen.
Yeah.
Probably don't know what sort of advice I can give them, but if it all is just someone opening up and listening, well, and being able to listen to that, well, then I'm all ears. But and some people might find that difficult to do that. I don't know how I mean, you're a very easy person to talk to, so I think I'm returning serve to you to say that possibly people would feel comfortable talking to you as well. So I don't know if you've found that in your
I found that
journey so far, your life so far. People don't mind talking to me, and I'm cool with that.
Yeah.
Like I said, I don't know what sort of advice and how accurate things I can give, but I like to be there for people if I can.
Do you think when someone has a problem and they come to, whether it's to you or another friend, not a health professional but a friend, do you think they want advice, or do you think they just need to discharge some energy just to get it out of their system and talk, whether it's to process grief or just get something off their chest?
I think it's the latter. So I don't think at that point, like, if me or you, if someone was speaking to us, if we were to give advice, do you really think that person would be in the position to want to take advice at that point? Like, if they're trying to unload as much as they can, if that's the situation you're in, it's about them getting that off their chest, so it's almost like you become a little bit of a yes man. Like, you're just like, oh, okay, yep. Like, we all know how to we know how to have a conversation. So if somebody wants an answer to something, yes, you can sense that and give them some form of an answer or your opinion. But, if it's a situation where someone's trying to unload, they're not really going to take it. It's like if someone's angry, if someone's yelling and carrying on, if you're trying to settle them down by giving them advice, do you think they're taking that on? No, they just want to get everything that they're saying out. Then you can approach, maybe, if the situation settles. How many times do you see people, my work situations, I had a lot of people yelling at me.
Yeah.
And, like, I'm not a person to take anything personal. They could call me anything.
Yeah.
But as soon as they finish yelling, then if they can then listen to me and if I can address some of that situation, well then, that's that. You see that happen all the time. People just explode, and then all of a sudden they're hugging.
Yeah.
So, getting back to that, hopefully I answered that part for you, but getting back to that, I don't think the advice is important at that point in time.
Yeah.
It's, I guess, being there.
Yeah.
Is the important part.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you agree with that.
I actually agree 100%. Yeah.
Sweet.
I know. I prefer it when we disagree, but I have to say I agree with you 100% there.
Oh, good. Well, nothing else to say. No.
Well, I don't think anyone comes to me for advice. People just come for a kind ear.
Yeah.
I think that's what it's really about. And just being able to, just knowing that someone's listening.
Yeah.
And I think, Erica calls it holding space for someone. She says it's not her word, so I don't know where that term comes from, but holding space.
Well done. I've never heard it, so she can take it.
I don't know if you remember that episode of The Simpsons where Homer gets his jaw wired shut. And he has to listen. He can't talk, so he's just listening to people, and women are coming up to him all the time and just getting things off their chest, and he's just there nodding, just and they just talk.
I do remember that. Yeah.
And that's how I feel. My job is basically when someone comes to me to talk, they're coming for them to talk, not for me to talk back.
Yeah.
And my job is to listen, to make sure they feel heard, and to really hold that space for them.
Yeah, no, that's definitely. I obviously agree because I said pretty much the same thing.
But I guess if I can elaborate on that, I think that in that space, when you're holding space for someone, that's when the healing happens.
Yeah.
You can't heal when there's pressure on you.
No.
It's like having an open wound and someone pushing it.
Yeah.
You need the pressure off you to be able to just take stock, to breathe, and then to grow from there. And I think that's what people really need, that space.
And you're not going to solve a reasonable problem in 5 minutes anyway. So what's the point of, if you've got an hour to talk to somebody, let them, and I'm very big on sleeping on a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know if it's just the way my mind works. I need a bit of time to, and I'm sure I'm not the only one, just to process what it was or what it is. If it's my problem, my initial reaction, if I think, I'm going to respond to this straight away, whether it be via a phone call or talking to someone or an email or whatever it be in any situation, if I sleep on it, usually that initial reaction sometimes is wrong.
Yeah.
And I've recognized that, and it's taken me, this long in my life to sort of go, just take a breath.
Yeah, right.
And that's the way I sort of talk to my kids too, is I know you lose, just take a breath. Let's take 5 breaths together.
Yeah. And
it might feel a little bit better, and it might be a bit clearer, and I know the world doesn't work like that, and you can't just tell someone to take a breath because I'll probably knock your teeth out. but it's all about just taking a step back and seeing what it looks like to someone else, or taking a different perspective on things. So I guess, being there for someone, that's the only advice I'd sort of give to somebody at the time.
Yeah. You just want to facilitate, their being able to think a little bit clearer.
Yeah. Because they're obviously in a situation.
Yeah.
So whether it be whatever they're dealing with, sometimes all it needs is just a different angle.
Yeah. And you've got to process that physical feeling, don't you?
Yeah.
Sometimes the best way to do that is through breathing.
Yeah.
So one of the reasons why I asked you how you felt about, asking one of your friends if they're okay, I didn't use that term, but asking your friends that, is one of our close friends was going through something, and I had no idea.
Yeah.
I had no idea that he was going through that for 8 months.
Yep.
He didn't mention it once.
Yep. Same. Yeah.
Yeah. So
and it hit me. That hit me hard. I don't know why, but that hit me. Like was I wrong? What happened?
Well,
like
I was hoping that we could talk to each other about things.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying this is any betrayal on anyone's part or anything like that. I'm just saying that we don't share things, do we? Necessarily. And I think Stephen Fry, the comic and presenter and actor, made the point saying, you don't go and show your friends when you've got a hemorrhoid, do you?
No.
So why would you talk about your depression?
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
And I thought, wow, he's right.
Yeah.
And sometimes we don't want to be a burden on someone. It's like, I don't want to, they're all happy that we're going out having drinks. They don't want to hear about my depression.
Or when's the right time? When's the right time to bring something up like that? When you're going through something depressing, how do you bring that up to somebody when, you come over to their house and you have a few beers, or you come over to their house to have dinner, or you go out and meet up with other friends? Like, when are you going to bring that up? Like, you have to make a time for it, and then that's awkward in itself. Like, ring you up and say, let's go for a coffee, and then just unload. Like, that's tough, I think, to do that. I'd have trouble with it.
Look, we're almost out of time for this episode, but something that I've thought about a lot, and we'll touch on this on the next episode, is I've done a lot of martial arts training.
Yeah.
Okay? I've learnt so many ways to protect myself from a punch in the face.
Yep.
But not once have I ever been drilled, whether at school, whether in martial arts training, on how to protect myself verbally.
Yeah.
Or to express myself verbally.
Sounds like a pretty good topic.
All right. Jared, thanks again for coming over.
Not a problem, mate.
All right.
See ya.